Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. We'll get started here in just a minute or so. All right. So we're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. There will be one exception coming up later this month where we will not have a training on March 23rd. So please keep that in mind. On the screen here, you see our Dash login page, which says dash.virtualpbx.com. I typically recommend our users to bookmark this page so that way they can just get back here quickly and easily. However, you can also get here through the virtualpbx.com website. So if you go to virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, and you'll see a link there for Dash login. Just click on that, and you'll be taken here. Now, on the login page, it asks for your username, which is your email address. So if you just signed up, it would be that email address you used to sign up with us. Otherwise, it would be the email address your admin used to create your user on the account. The password, which you should have received via email, and then the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you didn't get the email, or the email didn't have the proper information, what have you, you can always click down here on Forgot Your Info at the bottom right. It'll flip this box around. It'll still ask you for your email address / username. And then you need to either input the account name, right, so company name, or one of the phone numbers on the account. Right? You don't need both of those. You just need one or the other. Then you click on Reset Password. The system will send you an email to get you logged in, so that way you can change your password. Once you change your password, the system will log you back out and then make you log in with that new password. And then I say for most people, click on Remember Me, so that way it's one less password you have to memorize. We all probably have way too many passwords as it is. And then we'll wait for the system to get loaded here. Now, if it's your first time getting logged in, the system will take you to your account page. And this is taking a while. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, so again, if it's your first time ever logging into Dash, what actually you see initially, the page that looks like this, right? This takes you to your user account information. The Dash wizard will pop up. It'll pop up windows just telling you what things are. Typically, people don't change a lot here to start with. However, as an admin, they may go to the account settings page, and a lot of people end up changing the time zone, right, to make sure they're in the proper time zone. Now, what we're seeing here, this is a test account. It's been around for a long time. So it doesn't show everything. On your accounts, on a live account, you have another section over here on the left underneath you where it says user. You'd have a billing section. So you could update your billing contact information, you could update your credit card information. You could see what your service plan is, and you can also get your invoices. Go ahead and close out of here. And then now we're on our main dashboard page. Here, again, your name, you click back to get to that account page. Right here, you've got the toggle do not disturb. Basically means you put your extension or your user on do not disturb mode or put it back on to normal mode. Right? If you're on do not disturb, calls that go right to you, directly to your user go to voicemail. If you're in a group or in a queue, you're simply just not offered calls. So that's something to be aware of. Over here, we got the little help icon, right, a little question mark. Chat with us. We'll open up a chat window so you can talk to our support team, get some help on a particular feature you're working with. To learn more, this takes you to our support pages, so you can look at the specific guides we have created on our website. The online store, that takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, so you can buy a VoIP phone, for example, or like the desktop soft phone app. And then right up here is the web phone. The web phone only shows up after you've added a web phone as a device to your user. And then the next time you log in, typically, it will show up here as an option. Basically, web phone allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer, right, desktop or laptop, to make and receive calls directly from the browser. Over here, we've got the menu icon, 3 horizontal lines, hamburger icon, sometimes we refer to it as. Right now, we're on the dashboard. We'll get into these other areas here. Some of these, like ACDQs, are add-on features. So I'll try to denote anything that has an additional cost associated with it, or if it's a plan-specific feature, meaning you would have to change your plan to get that feature. And then over here, we got the logout icon. Now, over here on the left, where we're right here on dashboard, we have these other sections here. These are your main sections that most plans have. The exceptions would be auto attendance and the advanced routing. Those are on plans, or they're specific features on plans. All right, total users, 21. So these are the number of people on my account, right? These are my staff members who are making and receiving calls. Depending on your plan, adding users may increase your bill, so that's something to be aware of. Next up, we've got your total devices. I have 37 for my 21 users. And then we've got a breakdown. All right, so cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, which I was just talking about. The soft phone. So soft phone is software application that makes use of your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So software phone, soft phone. The web phone is technically a variant of a soft phone, right? Because a browser is software. We just split them out just because they have different. Well, web phone came out later, first and foremost, and typically is free, whereas soft phones may have a charge associated with them. SIP phone. This is a physical VoIP phone, right? So it sits on the desk, or there's a box somewhere in your facility, right? So SIP is a particular subtype of VoIP phones. VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. So if you're out shopping for a physical VoIP phone and you want it to use with us, you want to make sure it is SIP compliant or SIP compatible, then at least you have a chance. Once we get into adding devices, you'll see the manufacturers that we support for auto provisioning, which means you can make more uses or make use of most of the features that are built into your phone. Just easier integration overall. And then landline, pretty self-explanatory. Unregistered devices. I have 14. Dash can tell when a VoIP device is connected to us or not. That's what it means by saying unregistered, means it's not connected, meaning we can't send a call to that device, nor can we receive one for it. Now, that can be anything from someone simply didn't plug it in properly or didn't turn on the device in terms of like a soft phone application. It could be something more problematic like a network configuration problem, or it could be something very obvious like, oh, your staff member lost internet service, right? Their ISP had some sort of outage. All right, next up we have total numbers. These are your phone numbers that customers call to connect to your staff members. Now, down here, we've got spare numbers and assigned numbers. An assigned number means you're using it. It goes someplace. Someone dials it, they'll get to a person or a voicemail box or a fax box, right? So it's somehow being made. You're making use of it in some fashion. A spare number means it's on your account, but you're not using it. It doesn't go anywhere. Now, one thing to keep in mind about phone numbers is your plan includes anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers as part of your plan price. It doesn't matter if those numbers are assigned or spare numbers, they just have to be on your account. Right? So in this instance, I have 44 phone numbers, so I'm paying extra for a lot of phone numbers. Right? It's I believe the list price is $1.99 to $4.99, depending on your plan, per extra phone number over your allotted amount. You'd want to check the pricing page or contact our account services team to verify how many phone numbers are included in your plan. All right, then the other breakdown we have here is USDID and US toll-free. Right, toll-free, it's actually US and Canada toll-free. It's 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that's a US local phone number, right? So a number in, say, San Jose, California versus a number in Chicago, Illinois, or a number, say, in Miami, Florida, anywhere in between. You can also have international phone numbers listed here. If you're interested in international phone numbers, you're going to want to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a phone number in, and they'll let you know if there are additional requirements. Right? Some countries don't have many or any requirements. Others, say like Germany, require proof of presence within the city that you're requesting a phone number in. You can obviously, if you're going to look at porting numbers for international phone numbers, you probably want to email our porting team just to make sure that that phone number is going to be supported as well. Conference bridges, I have 5. That means I have enabled conferencing as a user feature on 5 of my staff members, meaning those 5 people can host/moderate a conference. Over here, we have our main numbers. I have 4 of them listed here. These numbers act in the same fashion, right? So they all have the same main greeting, for example, and they'll all route the same way. My conference phone number, I do have to have a conference number to enable that conference bridge feature on users. This is the number that everyone calls to get to the conference, and then enter the appropriate conference room number to join. Next up, you can have multiple conference numbers. The fax box number, this enables faxing on your account. You can currently only have 1 right out of the box. And this is the number that you're receiving faxes on, or 2, I guess. The company directory, this download link, download the text file, shows all your staff members with their extension numbers. The soft phone directory download link, this actually is for use with the desktop VirtualPBX soft phone application. So you would download this particular file, and then you would upload it to the desktop soft phone app. And then this will allow you to see the status of your other staff members in relation to the soft phone app. Meaning, for every user that has a soft phone app, you can see if they're on a call or if they're available. Right? So like right now, if I looked at my soft phone, after having downloading and installed it, I can see, oh, Mike is on a call. I guess I can't call him right now to talk about this customer issue that we've been working together on. Store discount code. Just for being a customer, you get a discount in store.virtualpbx.com. And then we have the account realm. The account realm is used in a couple things. One, it's used to program third-party soft phones. Right, so like you're using a soft phone application from Counterpath, for example, or it's also used to program a VoIP phone that it doesn't show up on our auto provisional list. And the other thing it's used for is for faxing out. So on Dash, faxing out is an email to fax service. You would create an email, and in the to field of that email, you would put the plus symbol, right? And then the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then in the email, you attach a PDF or a TIFF file, and you would click send. Now, in that email, you don't need to type anything in the body of the email because the system doesn't look at the email except for the attachment, right? System gets the email, says, oh, here's attachment, grabs it, and then converts that to send it out via fax, right? It doesn't look at the email, the body of the email. None of that gets transmitted with the fax. So if you need a fax cover sheet, for example, you actually would need to include that as part of that PDF document. All right, up here we got caller ID. You can select from the pull down from any of your main numbers. And then, this whatever number you select, this becomes your default number for a couple of different other features. So that's something to be aware of. It also becomes a default number for your VoIP phones when they make outbound calls. And that's important also for, like, if you're using VoIP for making outbound calls, you do need to make sure this is set. So that way those outbound calls will go through. Next up, we have the company caller ID name, or CNAME. This can be up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters, that we then send to the other carriers that support CNAME. So that way, when you make an outbound call from your VoIP phone, that information is transmitted out as part of the outbound caller ID. Now, something to keep in mind, not every carrier supports CNAME. So if a call, like your outbound call happens to route through one of those carriers, your CNAME information doesn't get delivered to that receiving device. Ultimately, it is also that receiving carrier, right, that for that receiving device to decide if the CNAME information is going to show up on that device. Like for cell phone carriers, that can be problematic. I know at least on a couple of cell phone carriers, to have CNAME show up, you have to, it's an additional paid service, like $10 a month or something like that. So that's something to be aware of. Even for the carriers who support CNAME, it's not high priority. Right, their first priority is connect the call, followed by the caller ID. So if they're having a maintenance issue or heavier than expected call volume, it's possible your CNAME information does not get transmitted as well. All we are doing with this is we are simply submitting it to all the carriers who support CNAME, so they have that information. In terms of delivery, we don't have a lot of control over it after that. Next up, we have the company emergency information, or E911. Right, so this would be if your VoIP phone users pick up the phone, dial 911. This is the address information that gets sent to emergency services. So one, you want to make sure this is a valid address and the correct address. Now, each phone number can have its own E911 information, so you can then assign different addresses to different VoIP phones. Right, so that's appropriate for their location. Next up, we've got hold music. Now, hold music on Dash is defined as once a call has come into a user and the user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone, that is when hold music will play. Now, on Dash, you can upload your own media files. You would click upload here. You find the file on your computer. That file should be a .mp3 or .wav, .wave. It should be recorded in mono, and it needs to be under 1 megabyte in size. And then you would click on the upload arrow here. You'll get a progress bar, and then once it completes, you would click on Save Changes. Hours is actually a part of main number, so let's just go to main number so we can go through the whole thing instead of skipping around. All right, so up the top, we got our main company numbers. As I said, you have 4 here. Now, if you don't want to use one of these numbers as a main number any longer, you would simply click Unassign. and that removes it as a main number. Now it's still on your account, right? It becomes a spare number at this point. And if you want to delete it, you'd have to go to numbers. Likewise, if you want to add a number anywhere, like you can add a number. So like main number, you can add it from your spare numbers, right? So you'll see, oh, I've got these numbers I can add. If I have specific things in mind for these, or I'm like, oh, I'm opening up a new office location, right? So we're going to a new city. I'm like, I want to buy in a particular city. So under by numbers, you click on local, for instance, and then say you enter in the area code of the new location you're entering, and then you get a list of numbers populated. You scroll down, if there's more numbers, the list will continue. If not, it will stop. And then you would find a number that suits your purpose or that you happen to like. You click add. You notice here it's added to my little cart. I have the number here. I can click the trash can to remove it, or I can just buy the number and add it to my account. And boom, it's now a main number. Right? So any way you can add a number, like directly to a user, to a group, etc., you can do that similar process. You just search for the area code, and it adds it directly to that spot. Right? Toll-free is similar in that you just choose the prefix you want to work with. You click search, and then you'll see a list of numbers, and then you would click add, etc. Now, when adding a number, especially for local, let's say you do a search and you get this message, sorry, we cannot find any numbers matching your request. Now, what that means is that particular area code, 310 is one of the LA area codes, we can't get a number for that readily. So you would want to check if there's what's called an overlay, right? So multiple area codes for a region, and check those do a search for those other regions or those other area codes to see if there's a number available. You can request our porting team to back order a number in a specific area code. So for like in this instance, I could email porting@virtualpbx.com saying, hey, I'd like to get a number in 310. The problem with the back order is we don't get any kind of time frame of when it becomes available, or even if one will, right? Because basically we're waiting on someone to decide, oh, I no longer want a number in this area code. That becomes available, and then we get it, right? So you're just waiting on someone else to decide they don't want a number. Who knows when that will be? Right. So for any phone number, you have a little gear icon here. So you can adjust the caller ID, right? You can put on CNAM information. You can turn on accepting inbound CNAM information, right? The E911, you can add the address for each specific phone number. Prepend is a VoIP feature where you can add text in front of the caller ID that shows up on the phone's display, right? So I can say, let's see, this is, I add East Bay to this number. So what I've just done is saying when calls come in on this phone number, the word East or the words East Bay will show up on my staff members' VoIP phones in front of the caller ID. So I'll say East Bay and then the inbound caller's phone number. So that lets my staff members know, oh, this is a call for our East Bay location that we just opened up. Messaging, typically you want to use that if you're using the business SMS, which is on specific plans. But for that, it actually should be a number directly on a user. And that user can only have like the soft phone application with caller ID enabled and no follow me enabled. There is a way to do it with your main numbers, although that requires APIs and webhooks. So you'd want to check with our sales team if you're interested in APIs. All right. Office hours strategy. This is where, so new signups, you start off a 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, the system's ready to take calls. A lot of customers choose to do custom office hours. So for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark in front of that day. And then in these boxes here to the right, you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here at the bottom, which I don't know if it shows up properly on YouTube, you have an option here to say if you're closed for lunch, you put a check mark, and then you enter in your lunch hours. Next up, we've got office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark here at the top right, or top left, excuse me. Over here to the right, under Add Holiday, you have the options for single day, date range, and advanced. When you select each one of these, it'll create a new row. Oops. And then in that row, you give it the holiday name, and then you put the month and date. For that single day, for example, you click on Save Changes. For date range, you give the start date, like we have here for Christmas, and the end date. Now, the main thing about date range, or actually for any of these, is that there's no year indicator here. So you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Just do those as single days, and any other date range should be fine. Now, for the advanced, that's this retreat example here, where I'm saying, hey, the first Friday in July, we're closed, right? Company picnic day. So the options here, which unfortunately aren't showing up, first through fourth, I believe, as well as last, right? And then any day of the week. And then any changes, you would click on Save Changes. All right, incoming call handling. So now these are, again, for my calls that are coming in on my main numbers. What are the calls doing when they come in? Right, I have my open hours, I have my lunch hours, I have after hours, and I have holidays. Right, so those are those main time frames that you're dealing with. Now, open hours. So for any of those phone numbers, calls come in right now, I'm having to go to the virtual receptionist. This is a link. And then over here on my left is my main menu. This is what customers will press on their phones to navigate through the phone system. If I need to add routes, especially if you just signed up, you would want to add at least one route. So you just click on where it says add route here at the bottom. And then the button press. So the default is if they don't press anything, right? The system will eventually send them to default. Otherwise, you have star and then 0 through 9 to choose from. And then you tell the system where does that button press go. Right, so if I go back up here, you'll see there are plenty of options. So Smart Directory, right, they can enter in someone's name to find the right person. You can send a menu option directly to a specific person. You can send it to a call queue, right? So like you have a sales queue, you can have an operator queue, etc. You can send it to a specific device. Now, we don't typically recommend sending it to a specific device because if no one picks up the device, the call ends, especially if that device doesn't have a voicemail that picks up in time. You'll scroll down here. You got a media file, so you can have a greeting file play when someone presses a menu option. Again, not typically recommended because once that greeting file plays, the call is ended. You can send it to groups, so you can send it to a particular department, for example. Advanced call flows, these are actually additional auto-attendant menus. So this allows you to make use of sub-menuing. And then you can also send it to a specific voicemail box. Over here on the right, you have your greeting options. So you got text-to-speech. You can type in a greeting here. You would click Update, Save, and then Save Changes. One thing to keep in mind is text-to-speech is restricted to about 350 characters. It depends. We've seen some variants basically depending on how complicated that greeting can be. I normally recommend the text-to-speech for people who are just starting out, like they've never used a PBX system before, or like it's a startup company, so they're not sure exactly how they want to have things go initially. You might just start with text-to-speech until you get a good handle on what you wanted to do, and then you can go from there. You can upload your own file. You would just click on choose file. Again, .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. And you click update, save, and then save changes. You can choose from any existing recording. So any recording file you have on your account will show up here. Again, my system's not always showing the pull downs. You can record it over the phone. Now, right here it says pick up a registered phone on this account. What that really means is pick up a VoIP phone. Now, if you go down here under settings where it says allow outside recording, if you turn this on, then you can allow a cell phone or landline to call in to record the greeting. But basically, you would call the main number that rings to the virtual receptionist, and then you enter the PIN number. Now, if you've just signed up, you don't have a greeting set, and the system will tell you there's no greeting for this menu. You enter in the PIN number, it will walk you through recording a new greeting. If you have an established account, right, and you already have a greeting in place, right, so you've got greeting A is currently playing, you can call in, you can still enter the PIN number, the system will still walk you through recording a new greeting. However, you don't have a chance to name that new greeting. So what it does, it just overwrites what was in greeting A, right? The file name stays the same, but the content changes. So if you needed that greeting A for future use, you would want to unassign it first, and then assign a different greeting to be playing, and then call in. One thing to keep in mind, the PIN number here is specific to this time of day, right? So this is my open hours menu. So I can only use this PIN number during my open hours, right? Meaning my system needs to be in open hours, so then I can call in and record that new greeting during my open hours. Likewise, if I want to do my after hours greeting, I have to wait for the system to go into after hours mode, and then I can use the after hours PIN number. Professional recording services, when you click order here, it will take you to a different website hosted by Snap Recordings. They have 80 to 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from with different versions of English, Spanish, and French. They have their own packages too. You can do like what they call hold treatment, so music file, script, that kind of thing going on. They handle their own billing, usually via credit card, and they deliver typically via email. And so then you can just simply upload your own file. All right, settings, number of retries on misdial. I have it on this system set to 0, meaning caller comes in, they hear my greeting, and they get one shot to enter in a valid option. Right, so if they hit option 5, which isn't a valid option, they don't get another retry, so then they get sent to my default option here. Right, so you can set this to 1 or 2, which is typically common. So that way, in case people like misheard the greeting, right, child screaming in the background, and they missed the option they needed, they can listen to it again. Go from there. Dialing timeout. This is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes the person is done. Right, so I dial in and I press 3. The system waits for 1 second. I don't press anything else and it says, oh, he wants to go to menu option 3. Boom. Right, versus I enter an extension number with multiple digits. Allow outside recording. Covered that up here under recorded over the phone. And then allow dialing extensions. So if I turn this off, that means the inbound callers can only hit these menu options. They can't enter an extension number and get there. They'll just be saying that's an invalid entry. Right, so as you turn this on, they know the extension number of the person they want to reach, they can do so. Now, if, one thing about the default option, I don't always recommend it, especially if you have toll-free numbers as main numbers, because those tend to get more robodialers. Because basically what happens is robodialer comes in, here's your greeting, after the number of retrials is exceeded, right, it goes to that default option, and that's just using up more minutes on my plan that I don't need robodialers to use. So then I can get rid of the default route. Now, any changes you make under main menu, greetings, or settings, you want to click Save, and then you want to click Save Changes here under Incoming Call Handling as well. That way you know all your changes were saved. All right, next option, call comes in. I'm offering it to Bob. Bob doesn't pick up. Then it goes to this virtual receptionist that we were just looking at. Right, and you've got different options of who you can send it to, right? You can send it to any user. You can send it to any of your devices, any of your media files. You can also send it to any of your ring groups. And you should be able to send to any of your call queues. As well. But basically the idea here is you're giving, it's a live operator option, right? So a staff member or staff members have a chance to answer the call. If they're not able to, then the inbound caller ends up going to the virtual receptionist where they can enter a menu option or an extension. Third option, call comes in, offering it to Bob. If Bob isn't able to pick up, goes to voicemail. This has the same options as we just saw under option 2 there, with one addition, so way down here at the bottom, which is skip to voicemail. So you can see this comes up on, oftentimes on people's lunch, right? If they're closed for lunch, they just send it straight to voicemail, also on their holidays, right? So, hey, we're not here, just send it to a particular voicemail box. And then the last option here is to go to one of my advanced call flows, meaning one of my other attendants. If this I can see for a temporary basis, but if you're going to do this permanently, whatever this other attendant is, you should make that your main system, so that way it gives you more options to work with, and then whatever you currently have as your main, you should move to be one of your backup attendants. Right, these options are all the same in terms of these other tabs, meaning they're not identical. Like this virtual receptionist is going to be different, right? And you would have a different greeting for lunch hours, I would assume. So for here, we can just do something like this. Right, but then I do need to save changes if I do that. Right, after hours, you would have its own receptionist as well. Right, because you probably have a different greeting saying, hey, it's after hours. Probably sending most people to voicemail. And then holidays. All right, main conference number, you can have multiple conference numbers, right? So I can add from spare or buy new. Right. You can do a custom greeting, which is text-to-speech. Right, if you enable it, you just type in whatever your greeting you want and click on save. If this is not enabled, the system still says, welcome to the conference. Please enter your conference room number, followed by the pound sign, and then the PIN number, followed by the pound sign. Main fax box number, again, this enables faxing. Now, on this account, the fax box is unfortunately broken. But on your accounts, when you click on Edit Fax Box, you'll get a pop-up will come up with 2 fields. The first field is to enter an email address to let someone know, hey, you got a fax. Right? So that email address gets a notification, say, hey, fax was received, and has a PDF with the fax attached. Right? So you just double-click on the PDF file, you can see what the fax is. That email address will also get notifications when a fax failed. Like someone dialed your fax number, heard the fax tone, and hung up. That can still generate an email saying, hey, that was a failed fax attempt. So that's something just to keep in mind. The second field in that box is for outbound permission. So you could add an email address to say, hey, this one person can fax out. Or if you own your company domain, right, so everyone at your company has an email that ends at abccleaners.com, for example, you can add that domain at abccleaners.com. So then any staff member, right, can send a fax out from their email, and they don't have to be a user on Dash. Right? They just have to have that correct format, that +1, area code or phone number, @ symbol, the account realm, attach a PDF. All right, auto attendance. So this is on some plans, or available on some plans. If this ends up being something you're interested in, you'd want to talk to our account services team. If you're an established customer, if you're thinking about signing up with VirtualPBX, you'd want to talk to your salesperson ahead of time so you're on the right plan from the get-go. The reason for multiple auto attendants. The top reason that we have is actually customers, they have multiple businesses that are ringing into the same account, right? So I have a cleaning business, a dog walking business. They each have their own phone numbers. They each have their own unique main greetings. But when the calls come in, they're still going to the same staff members, right? Or I just want them all in one account versus having two different accounts for these two businesses when I can just, consolidate my invoicing and billing onto one account. Now, the other purpose would be for submenuing, which I mentioned previously. As an example of submenuing, that'd be like call comes in and the greeting says, press 1 for English or 2 for Spanish, right? And then you have a follow-up greeting in Spanish saying the same thing. So then menu option 1 goes to a separate auto attendant where I have a English greeting play and those options to go to English speaking staff members, right? When they press 2, that goes to a second attendant. So I have a Spanish greeting play and those menu options go to my Spanish speaking staff members, right? So those are both menus underneath the main menu, sub menus. Currently, you can have up to 10 auto attendants, at least out of the box. If you need more than that, you would probably need to talk to our account services team to find out what adding extra attendants would entail. In terms of creating an attendant, you would click on Add Attendant. You give it a name, and then you assign it an extension number, and then you click on Create Attendant. Once you've done so, if you click on the name, you see here you have the unavailable in main menu. What this means is right now, this auto attendant is a standalone attendant, meaning this is a separate business, right? So it has its own main greeting, it has its own phone number, etc. Now, if I want to make it as a submenu, I just click on where it says unavailable in main menu, and that flips it. So now it can be a submenu once I click on Save Changes. If you click on the phone numbers box, you can add additional phone numbers, right? Local or toll free, or I can add some spare. I click on the extensions box. I can add additional extensions or remove the existing extension. And then if you click on the little wrench icon underneath settings, you'll see that you can send callers to the virtual receptionist. Now you notice I have the open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. These times match what I already set up under main number, right? So now in an instance where you have, say you have a couple different businesses, but you need them to have different open hours, right? Say you have, say you're a mechanic, or you have a mechanic's business that you're a part owner of and you're handling the phone system for them, but they're open 7 days a week from like say 8 to 6 p.m., but your cleaning business is only open Monday through Friday. In that instance, you'd either have to have a custom configuration, which may have an which probably would have an additional fee associated with it in terms of a one-time setup fee, or you'd want to look at having 2 separate accounts. But in terms of the actual setup of the virtual receptionist, this is just like we did under the main number, right? You would click on Add Route. You have your various greeting options and the setting options. Any changes, you would click on Save, and then Save Changes. Excuse me. All right, under Devices, so you see all the devices on the account here. Green means it's connected, right, or registered, so we can send calls to it. Red means it's unregistered / not connected, so we can't send calls to it. And black means you've turned it off, so we can't send calls to it. right? You can turn it back on, and you'll see that the cell phone here will turn green. All right, adding a device. You start off here with SIP phone. This is that physical VoIP phone that's on a desk, and you see we got several different manufacturers to choose from. If you click on Gaylink, you'll see that there's several model numbers to choose from. Same with Polycom, etc. So under your manufacturer, you would click on the specific device. You give it a name, like Bob's phone, and then you enter the MAC address. The MAC address should be on the phone itself, usually a sticker on the back, or if it's plugged in, you can click usually under the menu status. Normally the MAC address is there, and you just enter that information here. So then you would click on Create Device, and then you assign it to a staff member. In terms of the dashboard here, you're done. But for the phone, you need to access the phone's web user interface, the web UI, and then you need to enter in a URL, basically telling the phone, hey, go here to get your config file. Right? The phone then does so, downloads the file. It will reboot a couple times. And then once it's done that, it should show up as a green device here on your devices page. Now, for the specifics of that URL, if you go under our dash support pages, on the right-hand side, under VoIP phones, you're looking for the auto provisioning phones document. It will have screenshots as well as that specific URL that you want to add. Cell phone and landline are essentially the same. So you give the device a name, you put the plus sign, the number 1, an area code and number, and then you sign it to a staff member, and then you click on Create Device. Once the device is added, it will look something like this in terms of the advanced settings. So dash call comes in, goes to your user, and then rings out to your cell phone. Right? Your cell phone rings. When you pick up, you'll hear, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. It then connects the call to you. Now, that doesn't work in every instance. For example, you set up a cell phone, but that phone number is actually going to an automated answering service for your after-hours business, right? So basically, you have an answering service to handle your calls after hours. That automated answering service can't press 1 to accept the call because it's automated. It doesn't know when to press 1. So what you would want to do is put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone voicemail. So now when the call goes through to your automated answering service, right, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? Your automated answering service doesn't have to worry about pressing 1. And then they handle the call from there. Now, likewise, if this is really going to your cell phone, then you no longer have to press 1 to accept the call, right? You pick up, the call's connected, you're talking. Downside is if your cell phone voicemail picks up, the inbound caller ends up on your cell phone's voicemail box. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that comes up is keep original caller ID. Right? So when a call gets sent to your cell phone, right? Say customer Mary is calling in, and on your cell phone you see a phone number you don't recognize. You're like, oh, I don't know who that is. Maybe that's a Nigerian prince scammer who's trying to get me to give him 10 grand so I get 5 million. Or it's the I've been getting the extended warranty one lately, and I don't want to deal with that. So what you can do is if you uncheck keep original caller ID, the phone number that then shows up on your cell phone would be your main number. Right? So if we go back to the dashboard, that main number I'm talking about is this one here under caller ID. This is the phone number that would show up on my cell phone. So that way I know, oh, this is a business call. Let me take it. All right, soft phone. First, we get the little warning message about wireless technology and VoIP. You should read this just to make sure, but basically it's saying be careful about using 911 from a soft phone since you may not be at the location that's associated with your device. And then here you see a VoIP phone, and we're set up as using a third-party application. So if you're using a soft phone from Counterpath, for example, or If your physical VoIP phone didn't show up in that list under the SIP phones, you would use this to program that device. So you would give it a name. You would copy and paste the SIP username. If you click on the SIP password box, you'll reveal the password, so then you can copy and paste this. And then you would also need your account realm. Those three pieces of information are needed to program that third-party software, right, that third-party soft phone, or that other VoIP device, just so that way you can make and receive calls from that device. Then you would assign it to a person, and then you would click on Create Device, and then go to program that phone. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone application, then you would go down here where it says Use Third-Party Application. You click on this. It'll flip it. Now it says Use VirtualPBX application. You give it a name, and you assign it to a staff member. You click on Create Device. Once you click on Create Device, that staff member will get an email saying, hey, your soft phone's been created. Here's your username and password. They can then, so if they're using it, going to just use it on mobile, right? So on their Android or iPhone, they can go to the App Store, look for VPBX phone, download that app, use those credentials they just got, log in, and they're ready to go. And they just need to use, they're using their internet connection at that point on that app to make and receive calls. And that's the main reason you would do that on a mobile device is that way they can make an outbound call without having their personal cell phone number show up as the caller ID. Right. Also good for call recording on the outbound leg from a cell phone user. Now, if you want to use the desktop version of the app, right, so you want to use it on a Mac or a Windows PC, then you would still create it here, but you would need to get a license for the desktop version. So you just go to store.virtualpbx.com and order the soft phone application through there. You'll get download links to those apps. If you're on the Flex plan, I believe you have the option of getting a desktop soft phone app as included as part of the plan. I would double check that though with our account service team just to make sure, because there might be some limitations I'm not aware of. I.e., that might be the only VoIP device you can have, sort of thing. So please bear that in mind. Oh, and then the web phone, again, you get that same warning message. And then you give it a name, and then you assign it to an owner. You click on Create Device. Now, the web phone, again, you just go to webphone.virtualpbx.net on either Chrome or Firefox, and then that uses your Dash login information, right? So that same email address, same password, same account realm, or account name, excuse me. And then you use Chrome or Firefox from that point on to make and receive calls. All right, Greetings Manager. This will show all your different greeting files on the account. All right, TTS stands for text-to-speech. Recording means you recorded over the phone. And then upload means you uploaded the file. You have the option here to download a file so then you can listen to it to see if it's still relevant. If you click on the little wrench icon, you can then change the file name or delete the greeting. And so one thing you can do, you can use text-to-speech to create like voicemail greetings, for example. I helped the customer go through this. Basically, you set up under main menu or main number, under one of your incoming call handling times, you just send it, go to virtual receptionist. You create a text-to-speech greeting. You click save and save changes. Then you come here, find that file, right, which would be like, say, lunch hours menu TTS, right? You would click the icon, the edit icon here, change it to, extension 101 voicemail, click save changes, and then you can assign it to that voicemail box. Up here, you have the option to add, so you can upload a file. Right? You give it a name, find the file on your computer, click open, and then create greeting. It will upload the file, and then it's here in your list. Groups, shorthand for ring groups. These are departments. Clicking on add group up here at the top, you give it a name and an extension number, and then you click and drag the staff members you want to be in this group. And then you click on create group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name. You can always change the name. And then you have the group call attempts. Basically, this is the number of times a call can come into that group. You have little arrows here to the right, so you can increase that. So basically, it rings through to your staff members multiple times if you want it to. If you click on the members box, up here along the top, you've got timestamps. This last one is, you can edit this. So you can change it to 240 if I wanted to, or down to 60, etc. You have this distribute button. So basically, you're saying, hey, call these people in order. If I don't like this order, I can click and drag people around. And then I can click distribute again, and now I have a new order. Right. Likewise, these are sliders. So I can do something like this. Right, this is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, depending on who you speak to. But basically, say, hey, call comes in, ring everybody at the same time until someone picks up. Now, the downside of this is, let's say the first call came in and Michael picked up right away. Then a second call comes in. Michael will hear a call waiting beep until another staff member picks up that second call. And also, you can do your own custom kind of ring durations because they are sliders. The main thing is you want to make sure there's no gaps in between the time. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes. Groups can have multiple extensions. Right? You can add extension numbers. They can also have multiple phone numbers. And this means that anyone dialing this particular phone number goes straight to this ring group. Right? They don't have to have menu options or anything like that. And then we've got group features. Ringback is essentially hold music. Right? So you upload .wav, .mp3 recorded in mono. The main thing is that whatever file you upload, you want to make sure it lasts as long as your ring duration. The system doesn't automatically loop the file for you. So like if this file that I upload ends up only being 60 seconds long, since the system doesn't loop it, it just treats it after 60 seconds as if the call ended. Or we go to the next feature, it will follow whatever you have set up for next action. So basically, if no one picks up, what do you want the system to do with that call? You can send it to a menu. You can send it to one of your other auto attendants. You can send it to a different call queue. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a user, or you can send it to a voicemail box. Allow call forward. Basically, if you enable this, you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding, right? So they're not going to be at their normal desk phone, but they still want to be able to take calls, say, on their cell phone, right? So they would set up call forwarding, goes to their cell phone, and they would still get group calls if you have this feature enabled on the group. Caller ID prepend. This is for your white phone users. You can add a text or numbers in front of the caller ID, right? So if you have staff members in multiple groups or groups and queues, this gives them an idea of what the call might be about ahead of time. So groups and queues are related. Queues have more advanced routing options. Right? They're not restricted to just going in order or ringing all, like groups are. However, queues, you can currently only receive calls on VoIP devices, right? So SIP phone, soft phone, web phone. On a group, your staff members can receive calls on a cell phone or a landline, as well as any VoIP device. However, in a group, once you're in a group, you don't have a way to log yourself in and out of that group or mark yourself away. You're just getting calls in that group all the time. On a queue, your staff members can mark themselves away or log out at the end of their day. All right, numbers shows your phone numbers on the account. So we're on numbers in use. These red ones here are failed port-in attempts or that haven't completed. Otherwise, it will be in black and tell you that where it's going. Spare numbers, these are numbers I'm not currently using, right? I'm still being billed for them because they're on my account. Now, if I want to reduce my bill, right, I could remove, say, a couple phone numbers. Now I have this option here to delete. It says, are you sure? And now it says, hey, you've deleted the numbers, and now they're off my account. Likewise, I can buy numbers here, right, local and toll-free, just like I could other places. But instead of being in use, they immediately become spare numbers. So then I can assign them later as I need to. Over here is the option to port. Starts a new port request. Choose US local or toll-free. And then it asks you to upload a bill copy. It will then give you the option to download a blank letter of agency, and then later to upload a completed and signed letter of agency. Right, so on the letter of agency or LOA, it's going to ask you for company information. That company information should match what your current carrier has on file for you. Meaning, let's say you're moving a number from AT&T to VirtualPBX. The company information on the LOA should match what AT&T has on file for you, or for that phone number, I should say. It does require signature on the LOA. You don't want to simply type your name in twice. You don't have to print it out and sign it with pen. You could use a digital signature to put your signature on the page and then upload it. Once we get the submission, you'll get an email letting you know that the submission went through from the system. You should get a second email from our reporting team, usually by the next business day, letting you know, yes, we've got your documents and we submitted the port request. Right, so you should get 2 emails if you go through the portal here to submit a port request. If for some reason your files weren't able to be uploaded, or it didn't complete the submission process, you can email porting, right, PORTING at virtualpbx.com. With those documents, we can still process the port that way as well. You don't have to go through this process here. Porting local numbers can take anywhere from a business day to about 3 weeks. Just depends on the other carrier. Toll-free numbers typically average about 3 to 5 business days. If there's any kind of error with the port, like we get a generic message saying address mismatch. They don't typically tell us, oh, the zip code was wrong, or you had an extra digit in the address, right? They won't tell us that. They'll just say, hey, there was a problem with the address. That's all the information we can pass on to you. But then you can contact the carrier, say AT&T in this case, saying, hey, what's the address on file in terms of porting process? And you can ask them for what's called a customer service record or phone service record, and they can email that to you. You can send that to our porting team, and then they can adjust the port request from there. Right, users. Oh, another thing about porting, you want to make sure you keep both accounts active while the port is in process, right? So if you're porting from AT&T to VirtualPBX, keep your AT&T account open, keep your VirtualPBX account open until you get an email from our porting team saying, hey, the port's completed. Because once we get the port number ported to us, we test the number, right? So we make sure it can accept calls. And that's when we tell you, hey, the port's been completed, you're good to go. At that point, if you don't need AT&T service anymore, you can then say, hey, I want to cancel my account with you. Right? You don't want to cancel either account while a port's in process, because that will cause a port to fail, and then you might lose the number completely. All right. Users, adding a user, you click Add User up here at the top, and you basically fill out the form. First name, last name. The email address used for login needs to be unique for each user. You create a password for them, and then you give them an extension number. Now, on this system, I started with extension 1000. It is saying extension 1003 is available, meaning I probably deleted that original 1003 user. I can enter in a different extension number. Like say I just added a new business and I want all those staff members to have extensions starting with 7, right? I can enter in 7210 for this person. All right. Create voicemail box for this user. We do recommend that. It's just intrinsically tied to that user. Optional to include in the user directory. You can always change your mind later. Send emails to an alternate address. If you put a check mark here and enter an email address here, the voicemail notifications, password reset, the soft phone notifications would be sent to this email address instead of the email address used for login, right? So it would only go to this alternate address. Otherwise, everything goes to whatever you put here for email used for login. And then this other one here, send credentials to the user. I think it's pretty important, but you put a check mark here. So once you click on create user, this person gets an email with their login information, right? If you're creating multiple staff members, you have to create user and add another. Now here on the page, create person icon, that means they're just a standard user. Person with a blue suit means they're an admin. Now, if you click on their name, you can change their name. You can also change their credentials, right? So I can change his email address or his password. You also have the option here. If you click that link there, that will send the password reset email to this person. You can change the voicemail box pin for a user. A minimum of 4 digits. Now, for your VoIP phone users, right? If you created the voicemail box at the same time you created the user, right? Then you've added a VoIP phone to them. They can pick up their VoIP phone and hit *98 on their VoIP phone. That takes them directly to their voicemail box. The first time they do that, the system will prompt them to enter in a PIN number as well as record their voicemail greeting. For your cell phone and landline users, you would need to create a PIN number for them individually. All right, here you've got the option to send to an alternate address again, as well as to have them included in the company directory. Here, this is a pull down, so you can change a user to an admin or an admin to a user. Time zone for the user, typically I just say search a city like New York, LA, Chicago, etc. This is the display language within the dashboard. English, French, German, and Russian. The ringing timeout. This is how much time the system will try to reach the devices on the user. The default on a new user is 20 seconds, which is typically plenty of time to say a landline or most VoIP phones. 45 or more would be good for cell phone users, right? So in terms of how a PBX system handles calls differently, right? So a call comes in to the PBX. PBX says, hey, I need to reach out to this phone number. It's a landline. So we send it to that landline carrier. They say, hey, we know exactly where that phone is. Send us a call, right? Rings at that location. Versus call comes in, goes to the user's cell phone. So then we say, hey, cell phone provider, we need to send this call. Cell phone provider says, hold up. I need to find them first, right? Pings the cell phone towers, finds your cell phone that says, all right, send the call. That delay in finding you is why it takes longer to send a call to a cell phone than it does to, say, a landline. Right. Users can have multiple extensions. Right. You can just add another extension number or remove an extension number. right? Users can have their own phone numbers, can buy numbers or add from spare. And then you've got the option here for devices. Right, so you add from spare would be any existing device, so like you're moving a phone from one person to another, or you can add new, right? And the same process as we did under devices. I personally find it easier to do the VirtualPBX soft phone and the web phone right here on the users page, so I know when's the right person right off the bat. But they're basically the same. And then we got user features. First up, caller ID number. This only works if the person has their own phone number. Right? It won't be you won't be able to enable it until you've assigned a phone number to the user. For those of you who are interested in the business SMS service, you do need to have a phone number on the user. Again, business SMS is on certain plans, so you'd want to talk to account services if you're interested in that. Once they have a phone number, also what you would do for business SMS is under the phone number here, you click on the little gear icon to turn messaging on. Now on this user, they actually won't be able to use business SMS just because I have multiple devices, and I have follow me enabled. Call forwarding, you have off, on, and failover mode. So off means you're not using it. On means, yes, this person is going to use it. Now, call forwarding is a feature that your users can enable for themselves. Right? They can do it through the user portal, which we'll be getting to later. They can also do it from their VoIP phones. Right? In terms of, as an admin, you can turn it on here. You choose the kind of device, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, and then save changes. Failover mode is for VoIP devices. Right? So when the system detects a VoIP phone becomes unregistered, and a call happens to come into this user, the system says, oh, their VoIP device is unregistered. I'm automatically forwarding it to this other phone number. Right? So then your staff member can pick up the phone or the call, and then they go, what's wrong with my VoIP phone? Right? Then they can check connections in case the dog ran by and yanked cables out. Hot desking, this is another VoIP feature once it's enabled. Now this is in an instance where you're in an office environment where you may be switching desks from day to day, right? So today's Tuesday, I sat at desk number 7. I have, the admin has enabled hot desking and gave me a hot desk ID, right? So I enter in a number here. So I sit at desk 7, I pick up the VoIP phone there, I hit *11. The system then asks me for my hot desk ID. I enter that, and then tells me calls will now be sent to this device. So for the rest of my workday, any call that's coming to my user, whether I'm in a group or a queue or someone's dialing my extension directly, will ring at that phone I'm sitting at. Right? End of my day, I hit *12. That turns off hot desking, and I go home. Right? The next time I come into the office, someone's already sitting at desk number 7. I'm like, whatever, no big deal. Desk 42, you're it. I sit down. Again, same process. I hit *11 on that VoIP phone, enter my hot desk ID, and now I'm getting calls with that phone. Voicemail box was enabled when I created the user. If you click on it, you can disable it if you want to. And then you have these options here. So transcribe, voicemail transcription is available. It's available on some plans, so you'd want to talk to account services if you're interested in that. Voicemail to email, if you click enabled, then you have these other options here. The attached voicemail message to the email, if that's checked, that means when I get that email saying, hey, I got a voicemail, I also have an attachment in that email, so I can double click on it, listen to that message on my computer. And then typically what we recommend is delete messages from the database after sending out that email. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages, so that's why you would consider doing that. And then you would click on Save Changes. fax box. Users can have their own individual fax boxes if you want them to. Then you have the option here to select from a spare number, right? Or you can buy a new number. Or you can assign a new extension. So first and foremost, the system shows you a list of the extensions that are in use. You can also do a search. But once you find an available extension number, you put it in here and click on Select Extension. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, typically speaking, I recommend making use of a phone number for a user voicemail box. The main reason being is that if you use an extension number, you're relying upon that person faxing to you to be able to send to a fax or a fax to an extension, right? Because basically they have to enter in a phone number first, right, to get to, say, your virtual receptionist. Then they hear the greeting, then they enter in the extension number, and then they hit Start Fax. Or they have some kind of key combination to have that pause, so that way the system, the fax machine has time to connect, pause, and then, oh, here's some additional digits to send it through. Not every fax machine does that. And because there's a lot of electronic fax services out there now, a lot of them do not have the ability to fax to an extension number. So if you just have a phone number, go straight through, less hassle for everybody. Conference Bridge, you click Enabled, and then you just need to enter in a PIN number for that staff member. You click on Save Changes. Your staff member can adjust their PIN numbers via the user portal. All right, follow me. This is for people with multiple devices. And in fact, what it looks like when you first enable it is like this, right? So basically, when you first enable it, the system says, okay, what devices do you want to use? That's why it starts off that way. And then you just uncheck the boxes saying, hey, I just want to use these. Up here, you've got that total ring time. You click Distribute. So this is a lot like the ring groups, right? I can change the order. I can add this one back in, maybe. There we go. Right, so then I can change the order yet again, etc. Music on hold. You can decide to have staff members have their own individual or custom hold music. Right, upload .wav, .mp3, recorded mono under 1 megabyte, and then you click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. So when you first enable it, it will look like this, right? Everything is set to default off. You need to decide which of these 4 types of calls you want to record, right? So inbound internal means within staff members, right? So, and so does outbound internal, right? These are both within your Dash account. So inbound internal means coworker Bob is calling me, right? Whereas inbound external means customers calling me. Right, I probably want to record that more. Whereas outbound external means I'm calling customer Bob or coworker Bob, excuse me. Right, outbound external means I'm calling a customer back with a status update. Or you can go all 4 if you want. And then you click on Save Changes. Your call recordings are can be accessed at recordings.virtualpbx.com. Uses your Dash login to log in. You can then look at the recordings. You can play them back. You can download them. You can check our pricing page for the account storage that you get for call recording. I believe the lowest plans start at 1 gigabyte of storage. Additional gigabytes of storage is $4.99. And then there's some other options for that. In terms of like you can link to like AWS storage if you wanted for your own AWS storage account and store your recordings there instead. And then Do Not Disturb means you're putting yourself in Do Not Disturb, so calls go to voicemail. All right, voicemail boxes. So every user will show up here, and they'll have their name next to their voicemail box. You can create your own voicemail boxes up here. Right, you just give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. and then you would click on Create Voicemail Box. Well, once you do, if you click on the little wrench icon here, to go to Advanced, under Greeting Media, you can upload a media file, right? .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, right? But since you already have a voicemail box number and PIN number, you can also call in, right? Go to, call in to the virtual reception, hit *97 when you hear the main greeting play. Then the system will ask you for the voicemail box number followed by the PIN number, and then you can record it over the phone. For a manually created voicemail box, you do need to add a recipient, right? You would just click Add a Recipient and put an email address, right? Your user voicemail boxes, they already have one recipient built in, right? Because you've got that email address used for login. And then you've got options. So once you have a greeting media file playing and a recipient, you can say it's already set up. And then you've got these options here to attach the messages to email, right? So they got that attachment. You can transcribe if you have that option. You can also have the delete after notification checked if you want. Again, because the voicemail boxes can only hold 100 messages. That way, you've already set the notification off with the attachment, so there's not real need to keep it in the system. Now, if your staff members, you have staff members who prefer to log in and check their voicemails themselves, then you could uncheck it in that case. All right, advanced routing. Again, this is available on some plans. So if you're interested, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Or, advanced, right now, DISA is actually available on all plans, as far as I understand it. Direct inward system access. This allows a cell phone or landline user to call into your system and log in over the phone and then make an outbound call. And when they make that outbound call, it won't be their phone number that shows up as caller ID, but your main company number, right? That's under that dashboard, under the caller ID, that main number, that's the number that would show up. So if you want to make use of this, one, you click Enable. Then you edit the settings. I always suggest adding an extension number. Click on Save Changes. So on my cell phone, I dial into my main number that goes to the virtual receptionist. I enter in this extension number. Oops. Then the system's going to ask me for a PIN number, so I enter that. I'll hear dial tone again, so then I enter in the phone number I'm trying to reach, right, area code and phone number. And instead of that person seeing my cell phone number, right, they're going to see my main company number as a caller ID. Now, if you want this feature enabled right now, it may not show up on your system right now. You just want to send an email in to our support team, and they can turn that feature on. The main reason it's not on by default is that this can be abused, right? Someone can try to figure out your PIN number, for example, and then make outbound calls on your account, and you won't know about it right away, right? So they can run up your bills or your minute usage. Call logs shows your call activity on the account. You can show this week or this month, which wouldn't be that many. If you click on the little green arrow to the right means it's an inbound call, right? This orange arrow to the left, that's an outbound call. If you click on a call, you can see some further details. Typically speaking, here we go, right? This is a call. It actually went to a device, and I can see which device it went to. And then I see originator cancel. That means the inbound person hung up before the device owner here could answer. Right? Normal clearing, that means the call ended normally. This could be the caller actually went to voicemail. You can do custom date ranges, right? So you can change this around, and then you can download the file as a CSV file. Feature codes, I've mentioned a couple of these. These are basically dial pad shortcuts on your phone that you can then make use of different features on the account. These are also published on our website under the support pages. There's the feature codes document. There's also the phone commands cheat sheet, which it has it in a more condensed version with a brief definition of what they do. All right, so we've been under dashboard this whole time, so now we're going to move over to ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. ACD queues, this is standard ACD queues. You start between $15 to $30 per month, depending on your plan. You would want to check with our account services team to verify how much it would cost you to add queues for your specific plan, and or if you need to upgrade your plan to get queues. There's also ACD Queues Pro, which has additional features. They start, I believe, at $99 per month. And again, you'd want to double check with account services to see if they're available on your plan and to verify the pricing. All right, so adding a queue, you would click on Add New Queue. And then you give it a name and a phone number. Let's just click on already existing queue here. All right, so I can change the name here. I can give it a phone number or an extension. The queue routing strategy, again, unfortunately the pull downs aren't always working here. So most idle means the next call that comes in goes to my agent that's been waiting for the call the longest, right? One of the other routing options is ring all, right? So ring everybody until someone answers. There's also round robin, which will equalize out over time. There is least offers, meaning whoever's had the least amount of calls sent their way, right? So Bob's been offered 20 calls, Mary's been offered 5 calls. Under least offers, the next call that comes in goes to Mary. There's also least calls. This is least amount of connected calls. So in that scenario, Bob's had 20 offered calls. Let's say he spoke to 2 people, right? Mary's been offered 5 calls, but she's spoken to all 5 people. Under least calls, the next call that comes in goes to Bob. Now, in both least offers and least calls, if someone new logs in, right, shift started a couple hours later, that new person would get the next call that comes in because they have 0 offered / 0 calls. Hold treatment, got default music. Again, you can upload a file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. On ACD Queues Pro, you actually have more options in terms of hold treatment. You can have things like announce the person's wait in line, and then have then the music file play. You can say, hey, announce the expected wait time and have a different media file play. You can have multiple media files play at different times, etc. Queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time an inbound caller can wait on hold while they're in the queue. And then the queue call limit. This is the number of people who can wait on hold. This is on top of connected calls to your staff members, right? So Bob and Mary are both handling a call, then 4 additional people can wait on hold, right? So 6 total calls. Now, timeout immediately if empty. This means if I have no agents logged in, treat any inbound call as if they hit this timeout. The 3,600 seconds. Escalation queue basically means if my staff members are busy, call is going to be sent to a second queue. So that way additional staff members can pick up the slack there. And then escalation call flow after timeout. So after this 3,600 seconds is reached, send that caller to this voicemail box. Now I don't have to send it to a voicemail box, right? I can just have the call end. I can send it to one of my additional attendants. I can send it to a specific device. I can send it to the smart directory. I can send it to one of my ring groups. I can send it to a media file. You can send it to a second queue, I believe. And then you can also send it to a voicemail box. Now, like I mentioned before, you probably want to avoid device or media file because for the media file, once the media file is done, the call ends. And for device, if there's no voicemail or no one picks up, then the call just ends as well. Agent recovery time in seconds. Basically, after a call ends, how much time does the agent have before the system offers them a new call from the queue, right? So they have time to get a drink of water or finish their notes. Force away on rejected or missed. If you enable this, that means if a staff member misses a call in the queue, then they are put in away mode until they mark themselves as ready for a call again. And then an agent connect timeout measured in seconds, again, 20 seconds. This is fine because right now queues can only accept calls on VoIP devices, so 20 seconds is plenty. And then you would click on Save Changes. Or in the case of a newly created queue, Create Queue. All right, so now we're back here on the main ACDQ page. Over here on the left, this is the little members icon. If you click on that, this is the list of people who are available to join my queues. Right, so I've assigned these people to be available in my queues. If I click on Manage Members up here, now on the left, these are people not currently assigned to queues at all, right? So they can't even join the queues. Whereas this list on the right, these are my people who are already in queues. I can click on a name and add them over, so they're in my queue list. Right, moves up to 15. Likewise, I can click on people and remove them because that that's no longer your job responsibility is to be in the queue. Now, if you go back to your queues, and if you click on the queue name up here, I can add agents. All right, so I can click and drag and add a person in. For adding managers, you get to select from your staff members who are already in this queue, right? So I can promote Kathy here. So now she's a manager. All right, now for your staff members, once they're assigned to a queue, then they'll have an option here of ACD queues will show up under their menu icon. And then they come here, they click on Begin Session. That logs them in. But you notice here my status is away. That means I'm not ready to take calls yet. If it's their first time ever logging into queue, they probably also want to double click on the little phone icon here and select their VoIP phone that they're going to be using. And then they can mark themselves as ready. So now the system says, hey, you're ready to take calls. If I click here on this queue here, you notice I'm green, I'm ready to take a call. If I mark myself as away, I turn red. Right, so like I went to lunch, and then now I'm back from lunch, and I'm ready to take calls again. End of my day, I just end my session, and that logs me out. All right, blacklists. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you do not want to connect to your system. This is on, as far as I know, this is on all plans. You click Edit Blacklists. You can, if you click Add, you're creating a new list. If you already have a list, you click on the name. You can always change the name. And then Block Anonymous means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, then that call will be blocked, meaning they'll hear a busy tone. Otherwise, you click on Add Number. You put +1 area code in phone number, and then you would click Add to add it, keep adding phone numbers. Once you're done, you click on Save. You go back to Settings, and then you make sure that list is over here on the right under Selected. Right, then you would click Update. And so now any phone number on these two lists, as well as the anonymous phone numbers, when they try to call any phone number on my system, they get a busy tone. Right, so they just can't connect. Whether it's someone harassing your staff members or it's a robodialer and you've got tired of that phone number coming into your system. Right, dynamic caller ID, this is available on some plans. This basically allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID. when you make an outbound call. So one, if you're interested in this, again, talk to account services. They'll let you know what plan it's on and if you need to upgrade. But you would create new rule. You give it a name. You select the phone number that you want to show up, and then what kind of rule you want to set up. So let's go over here. So in this case, I gave it a name. I'm saying, hey, show this phone number as my outbound caller ID. And then I'm saying, hey, I created a feature code. So what happens is, say from my VoIP phone, I hit *71. I enter the phone number I'm trying to reach. As I make that outbound call, this is the phone number that shows up as my outbound caller ID. Whereas this one, what I've done is I said, hey, whenever I dial the 408 area code, I want this phone number to show up as my caller ID. Now, the phone numbers you can select from have to be on your account, right? You just can't make up phone numbers. All right, faxes. This goes to your fax manager. This is on all accounts. You can click on a specific fax box. You can see your inbound faxes or your outbound faxes. You can also see the email to fax logs. If you have anything here, like there'll be like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Typically it's thumbs down in terms of the amount of fax logs. You see from who sent it, who it's going to, the date. And over on details, there'll be a little eyeball icon. You can click on that. It'll give you greater details about what went wrong. Like there could be been a timeout. Basically, the system didn't get a proper response in time. Could have been a bad attachment or no attachment, that sort of thing. The monitor, again, this is available on specific plans. But basically, it shows the status of your staff members. Right? Green, waiting for a call. Blue, on an inbound call. Red, they've marked themselves away or do not disturb. The yellow would be external call or outbound call. Gold means they're on wrap-up time from a queue call. Right? And you can see who's available or who's busy. Number manager takes you back to your spare numbers page so you can remove numbers or add numbers. The recording manager, that takes you to recording.virtualpbx.com. Reports is in beta, I think, still. This is advanced reporting. So this allows you to create custom reports. This is available on select plans. So you'd want to talk to our account services team if this is something you're interested in. And so you can find out pricing. Voicemails, this is the voicemail manager. So you can go to any voicemail box. You can see if they have any voicemail messages here. You could then download them, listen to them, or even assign them to a different user if they got to the wrong box. Webhooks, this links Dash to other software via APIs. If you're interested in webhooks, you're going to want to talk to our sales team. They have the qualification information. You can also take a look at developer.virtualpbx.com to see some examples of what we've done with webhooks and Dash. And then we've got the user portal. So every staff member, right, everyone who is a user on your account has their own user portal. They can then see their own voicemails, if they had any. The call history will show their calls in and out of their user, and you can select your date range. Faxes, they could see their fax history. The contact list, this is everything on your Dash account, right? So all your users, your ring groups, your queues, your other attendants, etc. This is not something your staff members can add to, right? Only admins would be technically adding to it because they're adding new users, for example. The conference tab, this is where your staff members manages their conferencing. So here they can adjust their PIN numbers, right? So their own moderator PIN as well as their participant PINs. And then they have the option here to have in the participants join the conference muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. Over here, you can invite other Dash users into your conference. You have the option to lock the conference so no one else can join. You can mute everybody, you can unmute everybody, you can end the conference. When you're actually in a live conference, you can mute a specific participant as well as kick a specific participant. And then settings and devices, this is where your staff members can set up their own call forwarding, right? So just click on the check mark here. And then include the phone number, +1 area code phone number. And they also see the status of their devices. All right, and that is pretty much everything. I'm gonna head back here to the dashboard. I'll hang out for a couple minutes in case people have questions via chat, and we'll go from there. All right, not seeing any questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next Tuesday.